1. I never expected to meet a wild Karen as you read about, but darn if the gods didn't have different plans for me. I thrive off stories of karma and people putting entitled idiots in their place. So when it finally happened to me, I had a brief moment of, this is my time to shine, before I realized just how truly idiotic some people are. So a brief bit of background. I have held jobs in a large variety of fields, including medical, military, retail, data entry, hospitality, and manual labor. Because of this, I have developed a very dark sense of humor, and an immense disdain for anyone who tries to act like they are, insert specific deity here, gift to all humankind. Okay, so that's enough about me. Onward to the most brain-sucking day of my current year. So I currently work as an assistant manager at a very localized gas station. Nothing really major, just making sure paperwork gets done, and babysitting the front counter on night shifts. Crazy simple. As I was heading to work one day and had to stop at the dollar store on my way. After my military contract ended, I ended up with horrid ankles that would sprain just by walking down the stairs. So I needed an ace bandage as I was going to be on my feet all night. Now, DG employees tend to wear black and yellow shirts that say Dollar General on them. Granted, I was in my work uniform, a teal polo with the company title emblazoned on it, with a name tag, again stating I was the AM of this particular place. So maybe I was a bit at fault, but come on, learn to read. So I'm in the store. I had grabbed my bandage and was looking for a cheap paperback for my next 8 hours of pure boredom. Then I hear it. I am sure I don't have to describe it for most of you regulars, but for the new or particularly uninitiated here, it was the most nasally ahem to have ever crossed my ears. I wanted to ignore her, I really did. However, that didn't seem to be an option. She grabbed my forearm as I went to place back the book I was looking at. Bad idea. I won't go into it, but a history of abuse and PTSD makes grabbing me very stupid. Fortunately for both of us, much as it was my first instinct, I didn't hit her. I just sat there hyperventilating while she tried asking me for some inane thing that, for obvious reasons, I can't remember. After what was probably only a minute, I figured out what was happening. Insert a momentary feeling of, this is it. I put on my best you'd unscrewed the pooch face and interrupted her tirade. Lady, I don't work here. I have no idea whatever thing you were looking for is. Leave me alone. Well, that is just a stupid lie. You're in a uniform. You obviously work here. Now help me find that nuclear strength laxative I was looking for. So if you aren't from the Northeast, the Pennsylvania Dutch accent is this weird cross of Southern meets Boston. It's almost impossible to not sound like a Karen when you're being polite. But when you're being an insert C word here, that Pittsburghese somehow enhances it to make it a super Karen. It's a terrifying power that we should use responsibly, but we don't. Anywho. So this lady is just looking at me with the most haughty expression I've ever seen. Now I'm starting back, trying to look ticked off, but in a God you're a moron kind of way. Then she drops this gem. Thank the 8 that I have heard this one before and had a comeback on deck. And I'll thank you to call me ma'am. You kids have no respect these days. I began laughing, like full-on giggling like an idiot. Well, lady, I'll thank you to show me proof of your service to your country before I call you ma'am, because short of being an officer, that isn't happening. Besides, any enlisted knows that ma'am or sir is often used as an insult. Where is your manager? I want you fired this instant. Good luck with that, ma'am. I tried walking away, well, hobbling, but I digress. I got grabbed again, and finally did react poorly. I turned back into this immense jackwagon and unleashed my well-honed sailor's mouth upon her. I shall not include the critter stuff, again, not proud of it. Look here, idiot. I am sure that your bottle blonde has seeped through your roots and started to put a stranglehold on your brain. So I'll break it down for you. I don't work here. I never have. I may or may not have had a little spittle thing going on, but I'll deny that part emphatically. I wrenched my arm away and stoved my already bad foot and ankle. causing me to limp even more as I walked to the checkout. I have no idea how, but Karen beat me to the counter. At this point I'm shaking, visibly shaking. And her, in all her itchy beeness, was screaming at the cashier how unbelievably rude I was. So my temper again caused me to interject. "Hey, Jagoff, I'm right here." "And you forgot the part where you assaulted me twice. I mean, if you're going to tell this story, at least be accurate." "Her! I want her fired immediately. She cannot be allowed to scream at customers like that." The poor cashier looked so beaten down and just glanced at me as if this was a normal occurrence. "You shouldn't be allowed off your leash, yet here we are." That right there, I want her gone." The cashier just stared at her, seemingly confused about what to do. I can't say I blame him, poor kid was maybe 18. "You heard the lady, kiddo, I need to be fired. Would you mind terribly calling your manager up so I can be reprimanded as this poor sweet lady sees fit?" Karen seemed confused by my suddenly helpful demeanor. The kid looked relieved to pass the challenge onto a higher power. So after a few moments the manager comes out. Surprise, surprise, she is a friend I have known since elementary school. "Hey, beautiful, how have you been?" "I want this girl fired immediately. She insulted and assaulted me." "Insulted, definitely. Assaulted, no way in Hades." "Ma'am, she doesn't work here. She works at the bodega. See her uniform." Then Karen does the most Karen thing I could possibly imagine. Really, I've never thought anyone was this stupid, it blew my mind. "Well then, fire her from there. These are not customer service manners." "You want me to fire her from not only a different company, but one I don't work at myself?" Yes. Isn't that your job? Handling these lower-class workers?" "No, and this lower-class worker is a manager herself. Did you read her name tag on her uniform at all?" Karen just stopped talking. Her face grew beet red and she left. So that was that. The manager and I caught up for a few moments, and I left for work. I wish it had ended any way that could have been better, some kind of comeback, a swarthy comment, mild embarrassment. Nope, just some crazy chick who stormed off angry because I couldn't be fired from a job I didn't work at, or by a person who had no authority over my pay. 2. This took place maybe 2 years ago. We were having a normal day at the good old retail store when a customer comes in. He's on speakerphone with corporate and swearing up a storm about how he needed to return his online purchase of furniture. We have a system that allows us to cancel orders so long as they haven't been shipped. We can do returns on the orders as well if we get the items. Of course, corporate told him that we could make the return at the store. So the assistant manager checks her order number and finds that the item has been shipped and is in process. More beautiful, colorful language spills out of his crusty lips. And then she tells him that we can't do the return until he brings the item in. It's too far into the shipping process to change the shipping location. Our company uses a third-party shipping system that isn't the 3 US name brand companies, so we get little room to accommodate customers when it comes to shipping furniture. But he still demands a refund, and usually the manager can say no, since in this situation there was nothing we could do until he had the item. She suggested he bring it in and return it once the item arrived, but he refused. The idiot from corporate told my manager to do the return, and they'd cancel the shipment somehow. We all knew that wasn't possible with our company, and she told the person on the phone that, but they insisted. And the customer would not stop calling the manager a bitch. He called the assistant store manager more colorful language as he got his money back and left the store. So that's a pretty big hit for the store that day, since the returns come out of our daily profits. It was basically a blank return since we have no item to take in for it. A few weeks later he comes in screaming again. They delivered his furniture that he'd gotten a return on, and he needed us to come and get it from his house. Even though we knew we had no way of arranging that. The operations manager spent about an hour on the phone with corporate trying to arrange a pickup. Corporate noped that up. If he wants the furniture off his hands, he'd have to bring it to the store himself or ship it back at his expense. None of us could figure out why he didn't just keep the furniture or sell it. No one was going to keep track of where it went off at this point. The order had been cancelled weeks ago, according to corporate. A few days later he came back, demanding during a store rush that someone help him bring the furniture inside. We were glad to do it and shocked that he actually brought it back. Our operations manager decided to look in and figure out what happened with the order. The person from corporate on the phone with our assistant manager to begin with marked the shipment as in progress and flipped the situation around so it looked like we refunded against store policy. At this point it was basically free inventory. There was a whole lot of hassle on our end and the customers to actually make that happen. That company was something else. 3. Essential backstory. I work in a computer store where the dress code is formal attire. Button-down shirt, slacks, khakis, and tie. Me being a fancy boy, I prefer to add a vest and stylish cap to the outfit as well. This story happened only a couple days ago, so it's still very fresh in my mind. So it's a normal day at work. After a few hours of the grind, I get sent on my break. I have been intermittent fasting, so I'm starving by this time. What used to be a trip to the wonderful Golden Arches has changed to the local grocery store, in the same shopping center that my work is located in. Once I discovered that they sold delicious freshly made parfait, I arrive, lock onto my target, and capture my treasure. The elation once I have that magical combination of yogurt, granola, and assorted fruits in my hand leaves me spinning. I struggle to find an open cash register. Self-checkout has a huge line, and I only have 25 minutes left on my break. I am desperately searching for someone to take my money. All I want to do is gorge myself on this healthy blend of vitamins and fats. And then I feel it. The dreaded tap on my shoulder that we all know too well. I turn and there she is standing before me. The makeup, the resting bitch face, and that dreaded haircut. I'm ready for the worst. Will you show me where the canned beef gravy is? Karen asks me, but in a tone of voice that is more demand than request. I left my glasses at home and can't read the signs. Now, many times in my life I have been confused for staff at establishments I did not work at. But never had I encountered a Karen before, and certainly not one who had been so angry off the bat. I knew what was happening. I had read the stories, and I was prepared. I briefly considered telling her that I did not in fact work here. But before I could say anything, I remembered that I was here on a mission with a very strict time frame that if I did not adhere to, I would be at risk of a stern talking to from my manager. I did not want that. I quickly calculated that just conceding and helping this woman would probably take less time than a potential conflict would, especially with how angry she already was. Okay, I'm sure I can find it for you, I responded. I knew the general layout of the grocery store, having bought things from there many a time. I quickly found the canned ingredients section. There in the bottom shelf were several brands and types of gravy, many of which were beef gravy. Here they are, ma'am. Thank you, Karen responds. The staff here had no idea what I was talking about. And then it hit me. She was never under the impression that I worked there. She just asked me if I could help. She was likely upset because she had been struggling to find something she needed and the staff had been unhelpful. She probably could have gone about it in a more polite fashion, but she may have been desperate. Beef gravy may have been the key ingredient for some delicious homemade mashed potatoes or a meatloaf, or both. My preconceived notions about Karens led me to believe that she would be a problem, and perhaps ruin my chances to enjoy my sweet, creamy, crunchy delicacy. And I realized that however entitled this woman may or may not have been, I was still an asshole for judging her so harshly, without her doing anything really bad to me. Let this be a lesson to all of you. Even the most Karen-looking person in the world may not be a Karen. 4. So I work in an urban sports store, skateboards, stunt scooters, etc. in a small town, so naturally our stock isn't anything compared to the other store in the franchise, which has a massive warehouse with all their stuff. Most sales come from the website the bigger store operates, so patrons come in thinking we have that particular item when we don't. We offer to order it in from the warehouse and have it delivered to us in a few days, but as you'd expect, people aren't aware of this and they are often pretty disappointed. To try and combat this, we asked head office to put a notice on our store's page on the website to call ahead to check and order it in if needed. Simple. Of course not. So it was around 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon, a couple walked in, and I had that gut feeling that they were gonna be a pain in the ass. They walked around the small storefront, and I mean small, some living rooms are bigger than our store, mumbling to each other in confusion until they walked over to the counter. Let's call him Richard and myself M. Hi there, how can I help you? Hi, we came in to buy a pair of ice skates for my kid. Oh, sorry, we don't stock ice skates in this store, unfortunately. However, we do have many on our website that you can have ordered to your house on one-day delivery. If you're local, we can order them in to get in here in the next couple of days. Excuse me. Excuse me. We've driven 2 hours to get these skates because your store lied to us. That is not acceptable. We've had customers visit wanting ice skates before, specifically figure skating ones, however, they were all local and few and far between. The nearest ice rink is miles away, and due to the low interest, we don't stock them. However, I found it very fishy that they said they were lied to, so I probed further. Oh, wow. I'm really sorry to hear that. Who told you that we had them? Your website. It says on the page on your store. I'm going to post all about this on social media. This is awful from your brand. Awesome. A place to dig. Maybe head office had messed up and said we stocked them. I head to the page and read the bio. Nothing on ice skates. Even said to call us to check. Cool. They either misread or are lying to cover their back. But they were already irate, and I hadn't lost enough of the will to live to call them out on it. I eventually calmed them down like the littlest bit, and told them I'll talk to my manager later about this. I was the only one in at the time. And told them where the nearest skates could be bought. To be fair, they were an hour away and would be closed by then. When they realized they weren't going to get anything, they had a mini storm out of the store. After I had a small 5-minute what the fuck just happened break, I DM'd my manager what happened and I forgot about it. Earlier today I came into work to support a stock delivery. No ice skates unfortunately, and filled in my colleague seeing what happened. After finishing and waiting for a customer to come in, it was a Tuesday afternoon after all, I noticed a notification coming from the store's Slack account. I clicked to see what it was, and the mad lad Richard left a comment on a post on the company's social media account. I won't put out what he said since it's quite identifiable, but to paraphrase, it wasn't exactly PG-13. The pair of us had a good laugh, especially at the comments on the Slack message. Example, why did he not just call ahead, etc., etc.? What I didn't notice was C saw the guy's handle and looked through his profile. Dear God. I have never seen another human bitch moan like this one did. I think at one point he complained that the French fries at a supermarket cafeteria were burnt. They were crispy at best from the picture he posted. Oh yeah, there was so much right-wing stuff it was insane. Later my manager got in contact with head office and confirmed my end of the story. Afterwards, we found out later on Google Maps that there were 2 figure skate stores in the city he came from. Intelligence 100. I've had a few interesting customers in the last few years in retail, but holy hell, what a heck of a saga. Hope you guys had a laugh as well. 5. This was either 2015 or 2016. My wife, then girlfriend, and I were checking out the shops in one of the hip neighborhoods when we decided to walk into my wife's favorite store. I like shopping there too because the clearance sections are always great. Anyway, I'm standing near the entrance checking out the men's hats, looking for a wide-brim fedora. I was super into fedos at the time. Don't judge, not everyone who wears them is a neckbeard. Some people can carry them off. When I felt a tap on my shoulder, I turned around and lo and behold, the sweetest little old lady is there in typical grandma wear. I'm 98% sure her sweater had kittens on it. Before I can get a word out, she says something along the lines of, "Excuse me, young man, I'm looking for a gift for my grandson. He's entering the 9th to 12th grade. And I wanted to buy him some nice clothes for his birthday so he can look extra handsome for the girls." Now, in any other store I'd have pulled the "I don't work here" lady card, but because of how polite she was, I played along. If you were to describe my style of dress, it would start with hip and end with stir. I kinda committed to the look in my early 20s and never really got away from it. Given the store I was in, the khaki joggers, camo button-down, brown fedora, and obnoxious handlebar mustache — we have photos from dinner that night, which is why I remember — I couldn't really blame the lady for assuming I worked at Hipsters R Us. So I did the only logical thing I could think of. I took her to the men's aisle and helped her pick out some outfits. Now, this entire time, my wife was near the front of the store, checking out the camera stuff and knickknacks they sell to the Instagram obsessed. When I wasn't in the clearance section, she went over to the guys section to see something confusing. At this point, I saw my wife poke her head out of the clearance section to see the little old lady holding several shirts up to my chest. "Oh, so-and-so would look good in this, don't you think?" At this point, I had been following the lady around for 10 to 15 minutes. I had chosen 3 different outfits that she liked, and she was looking for a magic number 4. I'm over here too deep at this point to back out now, so I just looked at my wife, pleading with my eyes for her to rescue me. My wife decided at that moment that she wanted in on the fun, so she just sauntered up and with her best customer service voice, "Good afternoon, ma'am. I hope you're enjoying your time at Hipsters R Us. If you need any further assistance, please don't hesitate to ask. Hi, I'm Jim Mothy. He's one of our best employees." I chose a winner, folks. It's at this point the lady decides the green shirt was better than the blue shirt, so I walk her over to the counter. I leave her and say, "If you need anything else, don't hesitate to ask." My wife joins me at the front and we just watch her check out. The lady at the registers does the typical, "Hello, how was your experience? Did you have any trouble finding anything bit?" And we overhear the following conversation. "That young man in the green shirt was honestly the most helpful young man I've ever encountered. He helped me pick out all these outfits for my grandson, and he had a smile the entire time." "Oh, do you mean?" And I shit you not, my freaking doppelganger walks out from one side of the door, same colored pants, different patterned camo shirt, but camo shirt nonetheless, and a brown fedora. And the pièce de résistance, he had a glorious handlebar mustache. One problem though, I'm Filipino and the dude was white. The old lady shakes her head and points at me. "No, him over there." At this point I just start waving at them and tell them I'm going to take my break. Call me if they need anything. And that's the story of the day I met my white twin and the shortest job I ever had. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Adventures in Fast Food and Retail, number 60. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Okay, I have a shout out to do, if I can find the thing. I had the thing there a second ago. Where's the thing? Aha! As the author of story number 1, also has a YouTube channel. They haven't updated it in a while, but I believe they mentioned they were planning to, or some such. And the name is Ariana Victoria. And let's see, what do we have here? Let's get a mix of content. Various things. And lots of spippy stuff as well there, by the looks of the thumbnails. Okay, as usual, if I forget to put the link in the description, it should be right next to the story, just throw badgers and custard pies at me till I do so. Okay, with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.